The views expressed in the following program do not necessarily reflect the views of this television station. Please enjoy.
I'm Rob Harter here, and it's so good to have you here. I'm the host of the Impact and Influence Show, and we're on the road today. In fact, we're at the Christian Center of Park City, or CCPC, which happens to be the nonprofit that I get to lead, and I'm honored to be a part of every single day. In fact, here we are, and there's a lot of exciting things going on here at the Christian Center. You can hear all kinds of noises behind me. Here on the right is our brand new building. We moved in there in October. We absolutely love this new building. And then, of course, on the left is our former building that is currently being remodeled, and we're hoping to get that done by August. So there's a lot of exciting things going on, and we're hoping to, once we're finished, we'll actually double the square footage of what we used to have so we can expand our programs and services, and we're super excited about that. Now, the reason we're here, though, is for the show, and we've got two guests. They're up here on the counseling floor, which is our third floor, and I'd love just to bring you into the building and show you around a little bit. Come on in. Here we are on the third level of our new building. It's our Counselling Center. We have 7 professionally trained mental health counselors, and we do everything from individual to family to group therapy. We really do the whole gamut. In fact, I encourage you to check out our website, ccfpc.org. Look at our Counseling Center, and there's all kinds of different things that we offer. There's been a real high awareness of the mental health needs of Summit County, and we're just a big part of that, and we encourage you to check out all that we offer. And what I'm going to do today now is we're going to bring you to the group room, which is right in here, this beautiful room. Have this great view of Park City, of course. So not only is this a group room where we can do family therapy and group therapy, it's also a place that's going to double as a TV studio, at least for today anyway. So we're on the road, and we've got 2 wonderful guests. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, our first guest, Fatima Doman.
Can happiness be learned? Positive psychologists say yes. The science of positive psychology provides an evidence-based approach to creating your own thriving life. Traditional psychology focuses on the disease model, what's wrong with people. But positive psychology balances this by focusing on what's strong in people, by studying optimal functioning and strengths of character to help people improve their lives. Throughout the 20th century, psychology measured and addressed human pathology. Now, in the 21st century, a movement toward developing equally robust interventions and tools exists to study human flourishing, people's strengths and virtues. Positive psychologists have developed reliable and valid measures of strengths, well-being, and approaches to happiness and life satisfaction. As a result, we can now diagnose strengths like hope, perseverance, leadership, and love in as precise and reliable ways as we measure anxiety or depression. In a symbolic break with the past, positive psychologists have put together a list of character strengths and virtues, or what's called the CSV, as a counterpoint to the famous DSM, which catalogs mental disorders. Many coaches still carry a deficit perspective of their clients, even when working with high-level executives. As a result, many coaches aren't aware of how it affects their coaching. As Carol Kaufman of Harvard has said, in essence, the clinician is trained to follow the trail of tears. Positive psychology coaches shift attention from what causes and drives pain to what energizes and pulls people forward. They follow the trail of dreams. Positive psychology coaches don't pretend that mental and emotional issues don't exist. However, they choose to focus most of their time and energy on the client's wholeness and strengths. No one reaches the top without being led or carried part of the way. Whether you are using positive psychology to coach yourself or learning to coach others, authentic strengths will bring out the best in you and in those you seek to positively influence.
Welcome everybody to the Impact Influence Show. Our first guest today is Fatima Doman, and she is the CEO and founder of Authentic Strengths advantage. And she has been an author, she's been a coach, and in fact, she's worked with Fortune 500 companies, Fortune 100 companies. She's traveled the world as an executive coach. Also, a new author of this brand new book. In fact, she's brought it today. This is the first one. It's just fresh off the presses, if you will. We just got this printed and sent to us, and it's a kid's book. And of course, this is her first book called Authentic Strengths. And she's going to talk a little bit about that. But I want to have Fatima talk a little bit about all that you've done, particularly when it comes to schools and students. In the area of suicide prevention, bullying, and even addiction issues. Talk about your program a little bit and how it's proactively, preventatively worked with these students.
So our program is based on the new science of positive psychology, and there are actually over 350 global research studies that show that when people use their strengths of character, that when they first discover them and learn how to use them, that resilience goes up. And resilience is a big factor in addiction prevention, in suicide prevention, bullying prevention. So that's really our focus, is to help develop resilience in children and adults and communities at large.
Yeah, there's so many layers to addiction, right? And suicide prevention and things like that. You definitely take more of that proactive, preventative approach. Talk about a student perhaps that has really made a difference, has seen these principles and has truly changed their life. Do you have, I'm sure, a few examples, maybe many examples?
We have a lot of really fun stories, and I'll just share a couple of them. So we teach this content K through 12 in schools. We also,
right here in Park City, but all around the country.
And around the world, really.
Fantastic.
And
wow.
Also we're teaching this in universities. A couple of universities have asked to use this book, as a textbook. So the message is spreading. And a couple of stories from little kids. So a couple of, I believe they were third graders. The teacher, they were out on recess and noticed that they were sitting cross-legged and just sitting really quietly. And she went up to these two boys and said, "Hey, why aren't you out there playing soccer with the other kids?" And they said, "We got into an argument and we did with the training, the authentic strength stuff. They say, stop and breathe and calm down." And they were meditating. These three.
Wow. That's impressive. Third graders, that's really impressive. Wow. I wasn't doing that in third grade, so I'm really impressed. I didn't have your book.
Isn't that so cool?
That's impressive, actually.
And then here's another story that is really wonderful. So at one high school, some football players came in and talked to one of the counselors and said, "Hey, we're worried about one of our team members. He talks about suicide."
Wow. Okay.
And so they kind of did this intervention. I believe there were 4 students that came in and expressed concern, and they got together. They went in together and
that's impressive.
Wanted to help their friend.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned that all the different things you do, one of the things you do is actually work with addiction issues, right? The opioid addiction actually, as a whole, is a national crisis now, right? The opioid addiction problem is just all over our country. And as I understand it, schools have actually taken your curriculum to use it specific for that addiction issue. Why do you think it's been so successful? Why do you think schools are wanting to adopt this into these situations?
I think they're looking for evidence-based programs, first of all. And then secondly, I think they want to help develop that resilience that I talked about earlier, and also use this for character development. It doesn't mean that an addict does not have character, but there are strengths of character that will help a potential addict or an addict to overcome. There are strengths of character that help them to be more resilient in the midst of it all. So some strengths that are highly correlated are strengths like kindness to self, honesty with self and others, forgiveness of self and others. And often, as I was talking with your next guest, Roy, a lot of addiction, and he's a recovering addict, is related to trauma.
Sure.
So adverse childhood experiences, as we know, are correlated with addiction. Mm-hmm. So if we can teach resilience tools to children so that they, in essence, have a stress inoculation and they can better overcome these adverse childhood experiences, we, in essence, have provided a form of prevention, even if it's just one facet of prevention. And that's why the DEA, I've shared these materials with them.
Impressive. They've actually got their seal right here on the back. Very impressive, actually, yeah. Well, okay, so parents may be watching this, and they may have a teen, they may have a student that they're starting to see signs of maybe either suicidal tendencies, or maybe their teens talking about suicide, and or they're experiencing bullying at their school, or maybe some addiction issues. What advice would you give to parents if they are watching this show and they're like, I need to talk to Fatima and figure out what this book is and what it's all about?
So first of all, these things are happening at an alarmingly younger rate. I was just talking to parents this past week who have 8 and 9-year-olds who are being bullied, and who are really depressed and experiencing anxiety. So mental health issues are significant, and they need to be addressed at younger ages. So that's one piece of the puzzle. But I also want to say that, as you said, what can a parent do? I think truly being present, being vigilant, paying attention to your child's mood fluctuations, paying attention to the signs that the child may be displaying, and paying attention to the friends that they're interacting with. Just be present as you possibly can be. And I know so many of us are full-time working parents, but there are things that we can do to really focus on our children and to provide resources, and also, stay abreast of all of the new information and the tools. And this book in particular is a book that parents can read to children, and it's a book that you can teach your children about their 24 strengths of character. And these are all discoverable on our website. And I think you're going to share how to take the free survey. Yeah,
that's exactly right. So, okay, if you're watching and they want to find out, tell them what website should they go to? How can they get in contact with you? Find out a little bit more about this book.
Right.
Of course, Amazon.com is going to be carrying this, so you can check out the book. Right.
Right. It's already up for pre-order, and this one's on Amazon as well. And what you can do, you can go to AuthenticStrengths.com. and scroll down the landing page. You'll find an orange bar that says Take the Free Strengths Survey. And just click on that. It takes about 10 minutes to take the free survey. You will get a free 2-page report. And there's a report that can be created for an adult or for a child. So for you adults out there, you probably would really enjoy learning your unique strengths profile as well.
Yeah, and so this is kind of the special deal. If you're watching today, there is a special offer. So you just go to our website and find a little bit more information. And otherwise, we just encourage them to check out what she's doing, all the good work you're doing. Thank you again for being on the show. Thanks for what you're doing to make a difference and starting early to be preventative and proactive before things begin worse. And I'm going to take a quick break, and after the break, we're going to have our next guest, Roy Parker. She already had a good conversation with him. He's going to talk a little bit more about what he does here, right here in Summit County.
I believe in the values of the organization. So the first time I came here in Park City, I was looking for housing. I was needing some help, and I was directed to the Christian Center. So that was my first exposure to the Christian Center. And it amazes me every time I come here and how much people they help. Everybody can come into the store. Anything that they need, anything that they're looking for, whether it's a necessity, it's something they need for their everyday life, they're looking for a treasure, just come to our store. We're here to help them. Even if they just need a hug or somebody to talk to, it makes me happy. It makes me smile, end of the day.
Hey Park City, we're here at Tanger Outlets with our last Tuesday night dinner for the entire season. It's been a great season, and we couldn't do it without all of the folks who volunteered and given to these seasonal workers. It's just one of the programs that we do, and it's been a great year. Big thanks to Tanger Outlets for hosting, as well as newcomers who brought the food. And we have a couple DJs, prizes, and a great time to shop and get to know each other here. Thank you for being a part of the Christian Center, and have a great night.
Well, welcome back to the Impact and Influence Show. We've got a second guest today. His name is Roy Parker. Roy's story, and he's going to tell you a little bit more about it, but he was an attorney. And it turns out that he's actually never made a dime being an attorney. He actually has always offered his time for free. And so he's worked as a headmaster and a coach and different things. But through all that time, he actually suffered from a cocaine addiction, and to the point where it actually brought him down to rock bottom, as he says. And it wasn't until he finally became sober and overcame his addiction, and then he had this new driving force in his life to really help others who are caught up in addiction. And Roy does a fantastic job of really addressing some of the real key, critical issues when it comes to addiction and addiction recovery. So Roy, it's so good to have you on the show today.
Rob.
And it works really well with Fatima, our earlier guest, just about kind of the prevention side, but also now you're on the recovery side. So first, just tell us a little about your story. You're very open and honest about your story and your struggles, and what has caused you to become so passionate in helping other people.
Well, I'm one of the lucky ones with my disease. I'm a recovering addict, been sober a couple decades, a little longer, and people with my disease, by and large, they recover, they go to jail, or they die, and so it matters greatly. And yet, there's also the stigma of addiction, and so as a recovering person, coming out of the closet and making sure that people who suffer from my disease don't have to suffer the shame and the societal imposition that addicts suffer from. So I became involved with the Summit County Recovery Foundation. The foundation was founded about 5 years ago by Matthew Bates, who was prosecutor up here in Summit County, and Paul Quinlan, who was public defender. The two of them collaborated with Judge Todd Shaughnessy in order to set up a de facto drug court and then a sanctioned drug court. And the Recovery Foundation supports people who are participants in drug court. Drug court works as follows. Someone is charged with a felony, and the prosecution and the public defenders look at the case and say, well, this is really not a matter of criminality, it's a matter of substance abuse and addiction. And so people can be steered into drug court should they choose. Drug court is a recovery program, and I became involved as a volunteer working with Matt, who's now Judge Bates, and Paul and Judge Shaughnessy, and then became director of the Summit County Recovery Foundation. And so I work as a volunteer in drug court, helping people to recover. And we've gone from 10, 11 participants to about 21, 22. We work very closely with Summit County Sheriff's Office, with Valley Behavioral Health, the prosecutor's office, public defender's office, and try and save lives.
That's fantastic, and I know you're part of the Summit County Mental Wellness Initiative and Alliance. So talk about how you've already mentioned a little bit about the Recovery Foundation, how it works. Talk about how maybe with the larger picture too, what's kind of your specific niche, if you will, within that overall alliance?
Well, in the United States, the land of the free, we have more per capita in jails and prisons than any country in the world.
It's very interesting.
The people I work with, I teach in the jail as well. 90% of the people there, male and female, are there because of substance abuse and addiction. And the facility in most counties in the United States for mental health and substance abuse issues is the county jail. And so what the Alliance is trying to do is to counteract that, to reduce recidivism, to try and give the support necessary to help people to recover, whether it's addiction, whether it's mental health support that's needed. And that's the initiative here in the county that in the last 2 years, through the health department, has blossomed, and with an awful lot of community support. So our small piece is addiction recovery, substance abuse, and working with people in drug court, steering people toward drug court and helping people to recover from addiction.
Yeah. And I know your mission really is to kind of help people not just overcome addiction, but really start thriving again in their life and to recapture their life. Talk about a story or two of people. I know you were telling me earlier before the show, you've really helped a lot of people. Is there a story or two that stands out that you feel comfortable sharing about what you're doing and how it's making a difference?
There are 5 phases in drug court, and it takes anywhere from 18 months to 2 years. And there's a young man who is in drug court right now who's in phase 5. He'll graduate in the next 3 months. I met him in the jail. He was dressed in jail garb. He was involved in small burglary crimes throughout the county, felonies. Was a mess. He was suffering from addiction, and his mind was addled. He was dope sick. He was, what do I do? And 18, 20 months later, this young man is extraordinary. He is ski racing again. He is involved in the community and, with his job, with service, helping out the Children's Justice Center with a mural, all kinds of good things as he pays back. And he's a miracle. He's gone from beset entirely with his substance abuse addiction to being an extraordinary young man that he always was. He just happened to be dilapidated because of his disease.
This show is really all about making a difference and truly making your world better, and you're doing that. And I really appreciate what you're doing. You're helping people that I think in general, a lot of people are not sure what to do, and maybe they're afraid, what do I do with somebody who has such a serious addiction? In your work, what's been the most rewarding part of this job?
Seeing people recapture their lives. I'm a recovering addict. 22 years ago, people helped me. And to be able to pass on that gift and help people to become good sons, daughters, partners, spouses, fathers, mothers. Remarkable to have that opportunity. As I said, the disease is a fatal disease if not treated. And what we do is, I'll say to people, it's not my fault I'm an addict. I never aspired to it. I never, growing up, said, more than anything, I want to be an addict. But once I got the help, it's my responsibility to manage the disease. And I had to be taught how to manage it, and I get to help teach other people how to manage addiction. So to see people go from as low as can be to full of life and contributing and being the good people that they always have been, that's what's most rewarding. It's remarkable.
Well, now we asked this with Fatima, and I'll ask you maybe in a different way, but so say someone's watching and they're a parent, maybe they're a friend, maybe they themselves are an addict, or they're just dealing with somebody who has an addiction. What's your recommendation? We'll start with a parent and or a friend of an addict. What do you recommend them to do?
Seek help.
Okay.
Seek help, professional help. We worry, we want to solve, and yet we have to get professionals involved. Same with someone who might worry about their own addiction. We don't ask for help, and part of managing the disease is learning to ask for help rather than saying, I've got this, I can take care of it. The science of addiction has developed extraordinarily in the last decade, and it is so important to get the involvement of professionals who can then guide rather than trying to intervene on one's own.
Excellent. Okay. Now, if there's someone who's watching and they know they have an addiction, but they don't really want to admit to it, what is your recommendation for that person?
Oh gosh, I would again, seek help. People in recovery are my heroes. They're courageous, and yet the hard step is saying, "Would you please help me?" And yet that's where it all begins. And to seek the help of others, whether it's to go to AA or NA or to a pastor or a minister or the Valley Behavioral Health, here to the Christian Center, to say, I'm worried, I'm suffering from substance abuse addiction, and would you please help me? No one ever turns that down.
Well, thanks for so much. I think about the Counseling Center here, as I mentioned earlier in the show, we have 7 professionally trained counselors, and we want to work obviously directly with you. And so I want to make sure if you're listening and you're watching and you want to get to know Roy, though, find out a little bit more about the Recovery Foundation, where would you send them? Is there a website maybe, or a Twitter page or a Facebook page? How would they find out a little bit more about your Recovery Foundation?
If someone wanted to contact me, it would be through Facebook, Summit County Recovery Foundation, or contact the local district court and drug court. And those are the easiest ways. Or through Valley Behavioral Health, where I also teach courses in the jail part-time. That's another way as well.
Fantastic. Well, good. Well, thank you again, Roy, for being on the show. And we're going to take a quick commercial break. And then once we're finished, we'll come back for just a quick wrap-up. Hey everyone, Rob Harter here, and I'm so excited to be able to show you our 3rd floor here. This is our Counseling Center. We now have 7 professionally trained counselors that provide all kinds of different mental health needs. And the reason I'm showing this, but number one, is beautiful up here, but we are really committed to meeting the mental health needs of both Park City and Summit County. And now we have the space to do it. We can expand, and we're hoping actually to add a few more counselors to this counseling center. But the other reason I want you to come up here is because I want you to have a really nice bird's eye view, if you will, of our old building being remodeled. In fact, if you've driven by 224, you've driven by Bonanza, you've seen this amazing project at work. And I got to stop and just show you. First of all, look at this view. I mean, here we are in the heart of Park City. You can see Park City, of course, people skiing, having a great time. And our goal is, as a humanitarian community center, we want to be in the heart of Park City so we can meet the needs of this city. In fact, right behind me, you'll see that we are developing this where the top floor is going to be this community special event center where any of you in the community who want to have a community event, a special event, you can use this space. And then our main level is going to be our thrift and boutique. They're going to be side by side for the very first time. And what's really fun is every time you shop at our stores, that goes to help, feed our programs. It helps actually support our programs. So you'll be very excited to see how fresh and new that's going to look. Now, here's the reason I'm here, though, is I want to give you an update on our capital campaign. Our goal is $9.3 million. And I really would like to ask for your support. We are so close. We are less than 30% that still need to go. So we're over 70% that we've raised. But we'd love to have a lasting legacy right here in Park City. And we're asking for your help. So you can find out more about the capital campaign. Go to our website, ccfpc.org. Click on the capital campaign. It'll tell you a little bit more information about it. I also want to extend a personal invitation. I can give you a tour. I'd love to give you a tour of both our current space, and then we can give a hard hat tour to the new space and give you a vision a little bit about what this building is going to be and how we're going to build out this humanitarian community center so we can keep meeting the needs of this community. In fact, that is really the capital campaign update, is that we're meeting needs, building community together. Thanks for watching. Welcome back to the Impact and Influence Show. I'm really hoping that every time we do a show that you leave inspired by watching the show and hearing the people and their stories. And my hope is it was no different today. With Fatima's story and Roy's story and all that they're doing to really make a difference, whether it be on the preventative side, the proactive side, through authentic strengths, or on the recovery side. They're both so critical. And I also just want to give kind of a comment to those of you who maybe are watching that are a parent of a kid who's struggling with suicide, maybe has an addiction that they're struggling with. Maybe you yourself are dealing with that. Please get help. There are so many resources out there. Again, you can contact us, CCPC, the Counseling Center here. You contact Roy, you got the information there. Of course, Fatima as well. But get help. There's so much out there, and we're really glad you're watching and know that you can find recovery and recapture your life. So until next time, keep making your world better.